Soul of Chogokin, Liger 0. Hey, how's it going? In today's video, we have something completely different. We have the Soul of Chogokin Liger 0 from Bandai and Takara Tomy. This figure was released in June of 2023, and is the most expensive thing in my collection, at a whopping $320.86 Canadian. Why is it expensive? I assume it's because it's not going to be mass produced. Also, this is not a model kit, it's an action figure, created together by the joint partnership of Bandai and Takara Tomy. And it contains die-cast metal, meaning there's quite a bit of heft on this figure. It also comes pre-painted, which you will see later on in the video. So yeah, it's expensive and it looks good, but let's see if it's worth the money. Let's start the review. And starting with the box, we got the box cover over here, with the model kit itself in a very dynamic pose, looking very good. And yeah, this is from Bandai, partnering up with Takara Tomy to make this awesome figure. On the back of this box, we got some dynamic posing, the additional armor pieces that comes with the Liger 0, and a lot of Japanese writing I can't read. But feel free to pause it if you want to Google translate this. I do like how they engineered the Liger 0 to be somewhat similar to what a feline skeletal structure is. They are really trying to emphasize the engineering that went into this model. And we got some more images of some extras and accessories. But that's not all, we got a box within a box. Now sliding off the cover, we got the actual box over here. And an equally cool looking box art. Cool dynamic pose with the inner frame poking out on the background. And it looks like we've got some actual stats for the Liger 0. That's pretty neat. Now onto the back of the box, we got some more dynamic posing. Some information on its technical data, but I can't read it. Which is interesting because Bandai usually has English on their boxes. There's also an image of the inner frame with some more text boxes. And this cool final pose over here. Now I don't normally do unboxes, but this is an action figure, so let's see what's inside. Firstly, we got the Liger 0 figure itself right over here, without any armor attached, and it looks like we also got the weapons for the tail and the chest. Next up, we have majority of the armor over here, and it's hard to see, but they're already painted with all the decals applied. Additionally, we got the red Zoid core over here, and the pilot figure, which is actually in gold. The last container contains the display base and a couple more pieces of armor. And lastly, we have the manual. Though it is an action figure, you still have to do some minor assembling for the armor parts, as well as the display base, and some information on how to actually insert the batteries for this. And though it says the batteries sold separately, mine actually came with the batteries. So I'm just wondering, if you also bought this Soul of Chogokin Liger, did yours also come with batteries? But for this price, at least they add batteries, I guess. Let's unbox and pull out the Liger 0 to take a look at the base frame, and then we'll add the armor pieces later. And first thing when you actually remove it is you're going to notice there's quite a bit of heft onto this kit, just because of the die-cast metal. And I gotta say, that is one impressive looking figure. You got the Liger 0 basic white and black, and with the painted mechanical details, it looks absolutely amazing. The metallic colors reflect the light so well, making it very eye-catching. Zooming in, you can see even small details such as the vents have been painted, as well as the pipes and hydraulics on the side of the face. I also love the white pieces on this kit, which is very glossy. It contrasts so well with the black frame, and though there are surface level details which you could panel line on the white, I'm just gonna opt out of that. I personally prefer the pure white look. I can't just stop looking at that frame, it looks incredible. It's kind of a shame you have to put armor over it, it will hide some of the detail, as well as the paint job. I can definitely understand if you just choose to display it as is. And before I assemble the armor, I'm just going to take a look at the kit as is, and let's start with the teeth, which looks absolutely menacing. They are sharp and they look good. And of course it's a Zoid, so let's take a look at the cockpit. Highly detailed with some painted brass on the side. And I gotta say, the joints on this figure is quite stiff. It's tight, but it doesn't feel brittle in any way. The wire on the tail feels very good as well, very flexible. And one of my favorite things about this kit are the claws. They look so good with that gold metallic. And you can see how they engineered the paw with a dew claw. Normally the Zoids don't have this, but I'm not gonna question that design. I actually like it. But enough of that, let's start assembling the armor. Firstly, we got the Zoid core, which is very well painted. The attachment piece is able to move up and down, allowing it to slide in the chest a lot easier. And though it might not look like a big deal, the fact that they even painted the silver bits on the Zoid core, I appreciate the extra level effort. And the Zoid core slides right into this chest, but you're going to move up the head first. And then pretty much the rest is the armor bits. Everything's self-explanatory. They're all pretty easy to put on, just try not to apply too much pressure on them because I do feel like they could break, though none have broken yet, so that's a good sign. You can also see that decals are already applied onto the armor bits for you, so you don't have to do any of that. I believe the kit is already clear coated, so you don't have to worry about that decals coming off, but do be careful when you move the kit, because there is a chance you might chip some of the paint, and we don't want to do any of that. And though the instructions are easy to follow, there are some noticeable pieces that have some difficulty being assembled. Firstly, this piece over here, it attaches the underside of the Liger Zero, and be very careful, the fins are very thin, so I can definitely see someone snapping it if they apply too much force. The attachment point is also not very great. It does have the tendency of coming off if you hit it. I recommend flipping this black piece all the way down, and then there's this tiny peg on the fins that's supposed to go there. Main issue is that whole peg assembly does rotate, so you could expect there's some patience required. Gotta say, this is the most difficult part of the assembly. Be patient and try not to apply too much force. Also, the hip armor over here that sits right on top of the leg does have the tendency of falling off. I'm not sure if it's my own kit, but this piece here is pretty loose. Now, lastly, I have this piece that was found in the box. I'm not exactly sure where it goes. I've been looking around the kit, seeing if there's something missing, and the manual doesn't really show anything, so if you know, let me know. But here we have the Soul of Chogokin Liger Zero, fully assembled. And boy, does it look like a beast of a kit. But you see what I mean when the armor pieces are on, it kind of hides all the nice metallic details on the kit. Kind of a shame, but it still looks very good with all that gloss white. Highly reflective of the light, and when it's fully assembled, you can see the clear difference between this design of the Liger and the high-end master model Liger. Aside from the absolute stunning paint job, you can see a variety of differences. But I bet you can make the high-end master model one look as good just with a proper paint job. But having paid $300 for this, the appearance had better been good. But I'm not sure if that justifies the price yet. So let's move on to the articulation. And like always, we're going to start with the head. Showed you this earlier, but the mouth can open this wide, revealing the really nice gold teeth inside. And also the cockpit hatch can open, revealing the pilot figure. This fin on the back can move up and down very so slightly, though the booster backpack unit does get in the way. These fins on the side of his face can open out like so. The armor piece under his chin is also able to move forward and back. Just the head alone is able to tilt up and down this far. In addition, the neck can move up and down, giving it more greater range of motion. There are these black pieces on the neck which are also able to move in conjunction with the neck movement. And unfortunately, the head can't turn 360, but you don't need that anyways. It's still got a good turn radius. Coming along the forelimbs, it's able to abduct this far, and the shoulders have a small external rotation, and an exceptional internal rotation with this moving gimmick over here. As for arm rotation, I'm not entirely sure it could go 360 because I'm afraid of breaking it, but it still has enough rotation where you could put it in almost any pose you needed to. But keep in mind the joints are a bit stiff. Moving on, the shoulder armor is able to externally rotate. The elbow is on a ratchet joint, but it's able to extend this far and bend this much. And interestingly enough, it has a small bicep rotation, which helps compensate the external rotation of the shoulders. Coming to the paws, it's got this much of dorsiflexion and this much of an extension, which is really good. And like I showed earlier, this design actually incorporates a dew claw, which could 360 rotate. And the paws could also 360 rotate. Coming to the claws, they can all individually move side to side as well as up and down. And this leads on to one of the best gimmicks I've ever seen. There are tabs over here, which you could push down, extending these blade-like claws. They're pretty pointy, and they're also in this nice metallic gold as well. Coming to the torso, the spine also has these pieces similar to that of the neck, which are able to move up and down. As for articulation here, it's very stiff. We got a very limited back extension and ab crunch. Movement side to side is also limited. Yeah, not much going on here. And coming down here, we got these fins that I showed earlier, which were difficult to attach, and they're all able to flip down. Be very careful, the fins are thin. Additionally, this whole piece is sitting on an arm, which is able to fold all the way down. Not sure what real purpose it serves besides making it easier to assemble, but yeah, we got that. Under the chest, there's a double barrel shock cannon over here, which is able to move up and down ever so slightly and rotate. Now we got the booster backpack thing that has this hydraulic arm thingy, which is cool, but very flimsy, coming apart quite frequently. As for the boosters themselves, there's a cool gimmick where you move out the fins, it opens up the boosters and extend the thrusters. Boosters can also 360 rotate, as well as internally externally rotate. Coming to the hind legs, we got this much of an internal external rotation, 360 rotation the whole leg, this much of an abduction. Reattaching the armor on the hip, it's also able to externally internally rotate. We got this much of knee bend and knee extension. Same as the front paws, they could dorsiflex and extend this much, 360 rotation of the paws, and the claws are able to move individually, but unfortunately there's no extra claw gimmick here, you can't extend it, so kinda sad. And we're almost done, but there's a booster nearby the tail, which is able to 360 rotate. Lastly, we come to the tail itself, which has a flexible wire within it, and of course that wire allows it to have a wide variety of range of motion. In addition, each section of the tail is able to rotate very so slightly. In terms of articulation, it's decent at best. I still prefer high and master model articulation. The joints are fairly tight to the point where I am kind of afraid of breaking it, though nothing bad has happened yet. It also makes sense why the joints are stiff because the action figure is quite heavy, but I'm still able to manipulate the whole figure and put in a variety of poses, so that's still pretty good. And I gotta say, I absolutely love the hidden gimmick of the claws being able to extend and retract. That is very cool. In contrast, we have the backpack, which also has a lot of moving gimmicks, but it's kind of flimsy, and does have the tendency of disassembling itself. Though it's really easy to reassemble, it's still kind of annoying to work with. With that out of the way, time for extras and accessories, of which there's not that much. But let's start with the lighting. First, you remove this top portion of his head. You are given this clear piece, which actually replaces that back seat part where the pilot would sit. This is for the light to shine through, and when you have this piece, you're unable to actually have the pilot inside. This kit also comes with a small black tool, but you really don't need it. Next up, just lift this plastic piece off. It's not really adhered to anything, you just slide it right off. Take out this little screw, and I found out that my figure actually comes with batteries already, which is just fantastic. Now just flip the switch and you got lights. Put everything back together and then you got glowing lights out of the cockpit. It's cool, it's extra, but I'm not going to use this. Besides, it's only useful when everything's dark. Next up, this kit does come with its own display base, and a pretty heavy duty one I might add. The main arm can't be repositioned, but as you can see there are two small slots for the smaller arm to reposition. There's a locking mechanism over here which you can just pull out, allowing the mini arm to slide up and down. There's a secondary lock over here, which allows the upper part of the main arm to tilt forward and back. And there's a third lock allowing it to tilt side to side. The locks are very important and required because the figure is very heavy, and the high level of articulation is very good for the dynamic posing you're going to do. To attach it, the adapter comes right over here, you can remove it, and it slides right under the belly over here in these two slots. And I'm going to say the moment it goes in, it's pretty hard to get out. You're going to have to wiggle it quite a bit to get it out. Just try not to apply too much strength on one side or it's going to snap. But for me, I think I prefer it on an action base. The dynamic posing looks so majestic, so fearsome, all in this expensive package. And personally, I think this is the only way you should be displaying it. And yeah, because it's so expensive, don't expect a shake test. I know, timid shake test, but I really didn't want to accidentally drop it or something. But hey, at least it held up, nothing fell. As for height, it's around 6.5 inches tall, or around 16 centimeters, give or take, depending on how you position the legs. As for length, it's around 14.5 inches, or 36 centimeters, depending on how the tail is. Normally I do the entry grade first, but here it is next to the high and master model Liger 0, and when they're side by side you can see the design difference as well as notice the size difference. And here's a side view, you can see the big heft on the Chogokin Liger. It's unfair to compare an old kit to this new figure, and at this point I'm just beating a dead horse. Continuing on, here's the entry grade Arc 72, master grade Arc 72, figure as center amplified Shine Greymon, I just reviewed this kit. Then we got Haro, Doraemon, DK, an old fan, a Snoopy water bottle, an origami swan thing, and a rubber ducky. And here it is for shelf presence. With that base it takes up a lot of real estate, but it looks very good. So that concludes my Soul of Chogokin Liger 0 review. Now should you get this? Well, it's a lot of money, so if you're tight on money, no. And for that price, I know there's a lot of engineering that went into this figure, but there's still a couple noticeable problems I have with it. The hip armor continuously falls off if I just barely touch it. The designs of the boosters are very flimsy and it does come apart quite often as well, because once you move the whole figure, you do have the tendency of hitting the boosters, and that's very annoying. But you know what else is also annoying? These fins down here, though they look very good, the attachment for them is very weak, and unlike the previous two pieces I was just talking about, this one is very difficult to reattach. And for something this thin to come off quite often, that's just asking for trouble. And those are the primary negatives. For the positives, it's a fantastic looking figure. The paint job is astounding. The design is very sleek and modern, looks very nice and aggressive. I love the gold, it stands out really well. The extendable and retractable claws are very cool. I don't care much about the lights, but the display base is very strong and sturdy, and posing the figure is very fun. Now lastly, should you get this? I'm really on the fence. I'm happy I got one. It does come with other CAS, and before I actually got this figure I considered getting 4 of them, but after playing around with this one, I'm content with just one. Hey, but this might turn into a collector's item. I'm not sure if they're going to keep mass producing this. So pretty much it depends on you. Do you really want the Liger 0? Do you have the money for it? I guess then, yeah, sure, you could get it. Or if you want, you could just use that money and buy a boatload of kits. It's your discretion. Thanks again for watching my video. I hope you like it. I enjoy making it. Let me know what you think. I'm happy I got this, but unless I'm a millionaire, I'm not gonna bother getting 3 more just for the armor. Or will I? Thanks again for watching my video. Take care. Bye.